Hey YouTube, what's going on? And welcome to sinstergrge. In today's video, we're going to be doing one of the most exciting mods that I've been looking forward to a lot with the new 11th Gen SI. And that mod is going to be an exhaust. So without further ado, this box, even though it's all torn up already, has the MAPerformance race exhaust in it. MAPerformance makes a good exhaust for these L15 motors. On the 10th Gen, they had a really good sounding setup with their downpipe, their front pipe, everything like that. I wanted to try the MAPerformance race exhaust this time. I like the little turbo whistle it has and things like that. Without further ado, let's get into the box and see what's in here. So the first part of the exhaust that I got here, as you guys can see, is the stainless steel tip. I went with stainless steel for now until I start doing little bits of carbon pieces. I'm gonna switch these out for carbon tips eventually, but I wanted that to be a nice accent to pair with other carbon bits when I get there. So for now, we're rocking the stainless steel tips. And then as you guys can see right here in the box, here's all the piping and everything like that. So obviously you have your tailpipes right here. You're gonna have that piece that connects to the tailpipe section, or this, I'm not sure what this exact piece is called, but this will go at the end of this piece right here. And then obviously you have your muffler piece. There's that adapter piece. Here's that adapter piece as well. The welds look super nice on this as well. But here's that adapter piece to the front pipe that you'll put on there. And then here in this box, you have two of these. These are the clamps that you'll put on this pipe right here to connect your tailpipes. And then here are also your clamps that you'll be using. So let's kind of get into it. There's also a gasket in here somewhere that I gotta find, which actually is right here. So here are your bolts, or your nuts, and things like that. And also some ATCs, I think is that's what that piece is in there as well. So let's get going on putting this on. So here we are out on the road with the MAPerformance street exhaust for the 11th gen Civic. Overall, I think it sounds pretty good. Adds a good amount of volume, especially compared to the 10th gen SI, where if you only had a cat back, the exhaust was definitely more muffled. I had the NVIDIA Gemini or Q400 or whatever it's called on my 10th gen, and they were not as pronounced as this exhaust is on this car with no downpipe. So stock downpipe, stock front pipe. This is literally just a catback exhaust for the street setup. Now the reason I went with the street was actually because I had the race exhaust at first. As you guys would see me throwing on in the video, I didn't have those rear resonators on it. The reason that I reached out to MAPerformance and I was like, hey, can I order a set of the street pipes, is because the drone on the highway was absolutely ridiculous, especially around the 3,000 RPM when accelerating lightly, when decelerating, when I was downshifting. And unfortunately, like, if it was just me in the car, that'd be fine. But since I have a family and we drive this car pretty often, I needed to have something a little bit more tame, because it was to the point where it did bug me a little bit because of the vibrations in my ear. But the street setup is pretty good. You still keep the volume. Unfortunately, you do lose a good bit of the burbles that you would hear pretty pronounced on the race setup, but you still get a good amount of them. You can still hear them. They're just definitely more muffled, which kind of sucks, but the trade-off you get for the drone and stuff on the highway, to me, is definitely worth the street exhaust, just because it makes it more bearable to drive at those highway speeds, especially because around that 3,000 RPM mark is where you're at when you're cruising at about 70 to 80 on the highway. So definitely makes a big difference in there. And I don't know how well the GoPro's picking it up. You can kind of hear them every time I let off the throttle. It goes, just nice little burbles to go on with it. Nothing too obnoxious. It's not popping or dinging, things like that. Now, unfortunately, you guys are going to hear some of that produced sound that these cars have. I can't remember. Active sound design, I think, is what it's called. And you can get rid of that. I think you have to unhook a sensor, I'm pretty sure, or you can muffle it in some aspect. I'll have to look into it more here later, but it doesn't bug me too much. However, that is probably most of what you'll be hearing in the video, just given that the GoPro mic is not as sensitive as I would want it to be, except for when it comes to wind. It'll pick up everything when it comes to that. Now, for cold starts, I would say the street exhaust and the race exhaust are about the same volume. And honestly, volume-wise, I would honestly say they are very similar when it comes to the overall sound that you hear outside of the car. And even when you're in the car, if you're cruising without being in that drone kind of area, the sound is very similar. The drone is really just the vibrations that you'll hear, and I do plan on swapping them back and forth. We have a big trip coming up here in a couple months, so for now I'm going to leave the street pipes on there, but I'll eventually swap back over to the race pipes, and I'll even throw in a couple clips of me driving it with the race pipes. There's going to be a mic that's hooked up in the back, so you might hear me yapping a little bit in the video, but it definitely sounded pretty good, and you guys will hear the burbles, and the burbles that are coming through on the mic you can hear very well in the car. So let's try to get a full little pull here. tell. It's not too loud. It's kind of a good, just 4-cylinder exhaust. Not too obnoxious. Definitely good for cruising still, and not just being an obnoxious, not obnoxious, but to other people, but more obnoxious to yourself. So I would recommend the street exhaust. I do plan eventually on, you know, testing out other exhaust, because I want to put a downpipe on this car. However, I need to find a downpipe that will make it still bearable to drive with the exhaust, because I don't think this exhaust will pair up well with a downpipe, just because it is already a little bit loud, and I don't mind the volume, but I worry about the drone. So I'll probably end up looking at the Remark system, because that's what I had on my 10th gen, and even with the catless downpipe I had on that car, it still sounded really good. The drone was almost non-existent, just with that big muffler it had in the back. It didn't have anything else on it. So I'm definitely thinking about checking out the Remark system here next. I'll probably be selling the MAPerformance exhaust in, I would say, about a year. I might switch it up and selling that and just swapping it out for a Remark exhaust. So like I said, I would prefer for everyday use the street exhaust. However, the race exhaust sounds cooler, just because you get more of the characteristics of the car itself with the burbles and everything like that. They really just sound super good. They're not over the top, not overdone. I'm gonna roll down the back window, see if the volume comes in a little bit better. So, overall review, if you guys are looking for an exhaust for your Civic, I think the MAPerformance one is a good option. I don't think it sounds as good as it did on the 10th gen, but I've noticed that the exhaust notes on the 10th gen and the 11th gen are very different, even after listening to sound clips of other exhaust from the same brands that they had on the previous version. So, you guys are looking for an exhaust for your 10th gen, I recommend checking this one out. But definitely do your research, make sure you make the right decision for your car. But for the price that you pay, this is a good exhaust. I think when you get a 4-cylinder car, you need to buy a proper exhaust system, not just doing muffler delete, because they sound like garbage. That's just my opinion. I will never do a muffler delete on a 4-cylinder vehicle. It'll be straight catback, full system only. So, if you guys enjoyed the video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you.